Did you know that Louis Vuitton started off as just a trunk maker at the age of 16 while he was homeless? This teenager who went against all odds was able to pioneer modern luggage and lay the foundation for a transgenerational billion-dollar empire. Constantly reinventing and improving his craft from his teenage years, including surviving 2 world wars, the Louis Vuitton brand from its inception to now is a household name that everyone around the world knows. In this video, we'll be talking about the journey of innovation, originality, and exclusivity that led Louis Vuitton to where it is today, from a small trunk-making business to an exclusive fashion house. Stay tuned. Founded in 1854, Louis Vuitton now ranks as the #1 luxury brand in the world and is now worth over $300 billion. This was definitely not achieved overnight, and we will show you how in this video. It all began in the 19th century with a homeless teenager named Louis Vuitton. Despite having no money or food, one can tell from his early drive and determination that Louis was a man with a vision and a plan. Born in Angers, France to a farmer and hat maker, Louis grew up a hard worker. He had started working on the farm and stockpiling firewood at the age of 6. Unfortunately, when Louis was 10, his mother passed. He had a complicated relationship with his stepmother, who never missed an opportunity to make his life miserable. At 16, Louis made a resolution and left home. He made his way to Paris by foot, arrived penniless, and only had a cloak to keep him warm at night. Homeless Louis would sleep along the streets or in the woods. He was immediately drawn to artists and craftspeople. Even though the pay was poor, he was happy to take odd jobs to get valuable skills. He learned to work with stone, metal, fabrics, and food. This was the time when the first railway line to Paris was opened. Travel had just become accessible, and lots of craftsmen were beginning to see the opportunity in front of them. Louis wasted no time joining the trunk-making industry. He was hired as an apprentice by Monsieur Marechal, who was a skilled trunk maker. He spent 17 years with Marechal, honing his technique. Having become a favorite of his employees' clients, he was eventually made the personal boxmaker of the Empress of France in 1851. Louis had become so popular by this point that he was able to start his own business. He realized he could finally afford a wonderful life and chose to create his own family. By 1854, he got married to 17-year-old Clémence Emile Parrot. 3 years later, he had their only child, an adoring boy they named Georges Vuitton. At this point, we can begin to count the decisions that all together formed the success story of the Louis Vuitton fashion house. Like every visionary, Louis was not comfortable with the standard. He always strived to not just improve the norm, but also to make a statement. The first trunks at the time were made of leather and had a dome-shaped lid. The lids were designed so that water would run off the top rather than soak the trunks. Louis figured that a flat-top trunk would make travel boxes easier and faster to load. To tackle the leather problem, Louis experimented with other possible materials and then discovered the missing piece of the puzzle was canvas. When compared to leather, the canvas was lighter, more durable, and water-resistant. This revolutionary concept altered the game and gave rise to modern luggage design. Another way Louis changed the game was through their handbags, which were not widely used at the time. Many women were skeptical of them as they were heavy and made of materials that frequently resulted in injury. But the demand was so high that Louis knew it was time to expand. This was when he brought his son Georges into the business. Fortunately, Georges, like his father, instantly began to create value. He made the very first secure tumbler locks that became the signature of the Louis Vuitton trunk. Following the Franco-Prussian War, the father and son were forced to restart their lives. Notably, Louis had become homeless again due to the war, forcing the Vuitton family to evacuate the company and home. As soon as they could, Louis and Georges utilized what little money they had left to open a new business in an expensive neighborhood, capitalizing on the recent drop in property prices. Within months, business was thriving again, but Louis did not relent. He went on to experiment with even more adventurous ideas. He designed the bespoke striped pattern that was printed on the canvas materials he used to produce trunks and bags. Louis then extended his business by opening a store in London. This increased demand, not only from society's elite, but also from royals. This was his final accomplishment because he died shortly after, at the age of 72. Bringing Georges into the business no doubt paid off, as the business did not suffer along with the death of its founder. Georges took on a more active position as a leader by traveling to the United States. Georges knew that the products were good enough to become a household name all over the world and resolved to expand outside Europe. The first move he made toward establishing a worldwide network was collaborating with John Wanamaker, who owned the John Wanamaker department store in New York. The bags were now in the United States and sales were up. But Georges understood there was still work to be done. At this point, he introduced the LV monogram in honor of his father. This revolutionary design sent shockwaves around the world, and products manufactured with that design sold faster than ever before. The Second World War broke out and consequently halted the business. By then, Georges had just passed and his son Gaston had stepped up to the lead. Notably, he had big shoes to fill and was off to a very rocky start. He had to shut down all factories and stores. By the time the war ended, it had taken a toll on him. He handed over the business to his sons Henry, Jacques, and Claude, who did not bring anything new to the table, and as a result, the business stagnated. Their sister's husband, Henri Lequesne, who already ran a steel trading company, was notably a savvy businessman, so the Vuitton brothers put him in charge in 1977. This marked the beginning of non-Vuittons heading the business. Lequesne immediately pivoted Louis Vuitton from wholesale to retail. He ventured into the Asian market and notably opened stores around the world. Within the next 7 years, sales skyrocketed from around $20 million to over $250 million. By 1987, Louis Vuitton reached almost $1 billion in sales and became part of a luxury goods conglomerate after a merger between Louis Vuitton and Moët Hennessy, which up until today is headed by Bernard Arnault. Bernard was Lequesne's business partner who was able to steal control from him after a hostile takeover. If you haven't guessed already from its history, there were 3 key ingredients that made the perfect recipe for Louis Vuitton's success. The very first ingredient of the company's success is quality. Its founders have always placed a premium on quality despite the odds. As early as his teenage youth years when he initially arrived in Paris, Louis recognized the importance of mastering his chosen craft. The firm is now considerably more significant, yet each Louis Vuitton bag is still intricately and uniquely created. Ever wondered why Louis Vuitton does not do a lot of marketing? Well, if a product is exceptional both in design and craftsmanship, that product will sell itself. Another ingredient to success that Louis Vuitton, as well as its subsequent owners, understood is exclusivity. If done correctly, the exclusivity of products will attract potential customers just by creating an illusion of scarcity. More than ever, there are now more people who want to own a piece of Louis Vuitton, even to the point of purchasing counterfeits. The exclusive nature of the label was, ironically, born out of the need to combat counterfeits. Right from the 1850s, the Louis Vuitton bags and trunks began to gain popularity. Low-quality imitations began to pop up all over Europe. To fight this, the now famous design of the LV monogram, flowers and 4-pointed stars, was introduced in 1886. This design instantly became a symbol of wealth and status. Since then, the label has always strived to avoid mass production by only releasing short-term limited edition series. If there were unsold pieces, they would be destroyed in order to prevent stock malpractice. Over time, due to the exclusivity the label offers its customers, they become more desirable, and waiting lists have become even longer. Innovation is the third ingredient that has made Louis Vuitton successful over the years. Louis proved to be way ahead of his time when he first introduced the flat-topped trunk. Georges Vuitton also wasted no time following in his father's footsteps by inventing the lock. This was the first tumbler-based lock. The locks were fashioned of brass and metal and were non-pickable. They were also designed in such a way that a series of custom luggage trunks could be opened with the same key. Nobody would want to carry 5 different keys for a set of 5 trunks they own, right? Trends and demand change with the passage of time, and without a doubt, the label has mastered the technique of adapting to the current trends while remaining true to its historical roots. For example, the current distinctive Louis Vuitton locks are designed like the renowned 1905 V-lock. They continue to employ the LV monogram in ways that will appeal to new and younger audiences. Notably, the label remains as relevant now as it was over 150 years ago, and more so because its collaborations with artists and designers such as Takashi Murakami, Pharrell Williams, and Jeff Koons. Louis Vuitton, which began as a luggage and handbag business, has evolved into the manufacturer of high-quality leather goods, handbags, shoes, watches, jewelry, and other accessories. No doubt, with continuous mastery of the craft and innovation, Louis Vuitton will still be relevant to its patrons for many years to come.